Hello everybody, my name is Matt Abbott and I am a poet from Wakefield in West Yorkshire. I'm currently based in Leeds, which is also in West Yorkshire, so if you haven't guessed, I quite like West Yorkshire. So today I'm going to deliver a short session on the transition from primary school to secondary school, which in most parts of the country is year 6 into year 7. I actually think it's potentially one of the most dramatic and significant changes that you'll go through, okay? It's really exciting, presents loads of different opportunities and changes and exciting developments, but it's also pretty full on, right? It can be pretty scary. And the important thing to remember is quite often you feel like it's just you, like you're the only one. Everyone else is fine, everyone else is chill, everyone else is just getting on with it and living the best life. And you're the only person that's anxious and uncertain and scared. It's actually not the case. Pretty much everyone feels like that, right? So we're going to do a couple of activities today that'll help you to write about it and hopefully help you to experience the situation a little bit different. So I'm going to read a poem first called Big School, and then I'm going to set you some writing exercises. Back in the day, in the 90s, when we were in primary school, we would call secondary school Big School. I realise you're probably too cool to call it that now, but either way, you know what I'm talking about. So this is my poem in my collection, A Hurricane in My Head, and it is called Big School. In a sprawling concrete universe, a labyrinth of corridors, where everybody knows the way, all except for me. Every classroom's in disguise, every corner is a mystery. I got lost after geography, and now I'm late for history. My cheeks resemble beetroots, my books are heavy as bronze. I fight for breath whilst older kids just glide about like swans. Teachers tap their watches, they sigh and roll their eyes. But this school is like a city, deep and vast as summer skies. One by one the other kids are joining queues and talking, but I'm completely clueless as to whereabouts I'm walking. I know they call it Big School, but these buildings are gigantic. It's super chilled at break time, but after bell it's frantic. And these posters could be hieroglyphs, they make no sense to me. The stairs go on forever, and I'm late for lesson 3. I've got my pencil case, my planner, my lunchbox and my books, but still I'm feeling paranoid from all the funny looks. How come they're so popular, so good at making friends? I bet they're all just lonely too. I bet they just pretend. I find it hard to swallow that everyone knows the way. It's a maze the size of Mexico, which changes every day. It's a Rubik's Cube of half-familiar landmarks in my mind. And why are the scariest teachers the most difficult to find? How on earth will I ever get a single GCSE when everybody knows the way, all except for me? So I think that being a poet is a little bit like being a chef. And you might think that's a strange thing to say, but bear with me, okay? So who here has baked a cake? Well, I've never baked a cake, but I've seen the Great British Bake Off, so I've got a vague idea. When you're baking a cake, it's really important to get all of your ingredients out on the side first, right? Because if you're halfway through baking a cake and you panic and you need another ingredient and you go into the cupboard and start rummaging about, you might pick out the wrong thing. You might put some olives or some salt or some mushrooms or some chorizo in your cake by accident, and then the cake's ruined, okay? Now, it's not quite as dramatic with a poem, but if you've got a blank piece of paper and an idea for a poem, great. But it's really difficult to start writing that poem straight away from scratch in rhyme and everything, okay? It's really difficult to do. So what's important is to spend time gathering some ingredients to put in the poem first. So I'm thinking rhyming words, obviously, but rhyming is optional. I can't stress that enough. Rhyming is optional. Alliteration, similes, metaphors, adjectives, personification. There's loads of different ingredients that you can potentially put in a poem, and I'm sure you can name some yourself. So this first warm-up task I want you to do is I want you to think of a list of similes that describe secondary school compared to primary school. Now, if you're still in primary school, I'm sure you've been to visit a secondary school, or you've walked past a playground, or you've seen it on TV even, okay? And I want you to use these similes to think about how much bigger it is, how much louder it is, how much busier it is, all the aspects you can think of. And with a simile, you can really go to town with your imagination. You can really exaggerate. It doesn't have to make sense. In fact, it almost can't make sense. For example, that maths exam was longer than the Great Wall of China. Literally impossible, but you get what I'm saying, okay? So this is a task to list as many similes as you can that describe the differences. Think about the people, think about the teachers and the pupils, think about the corridors, think about the lessons, think about how many things you'll have to put in your bag, all of those aspects of it. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to do this, okay? 3 minutes. I think in that time you can write at least 5 similes, but don't stress if not, okay? So I'll see you again in 3 minutes. Have fun writing your similes, and remember, exaggerate as much as you can. All right? Cheers. Hello, I hope you enjoyed writing your similes there. I wish I could hear them. I wish I could hear some examples, but obviously I can't because that is not possible. I tried climbing into my screen and it didn't work. So I'll just have to trust that you did it and that you enjoyed it. Right, so as part of a main task, I've split it into 3 different sections. For this first part, I want us to think about the senses because the senses are so important in creative writing. Whether it's a poem or a story or anything, the senses really help you to bring it to life, okay? Because there's a golden rule in creative writing, which is show, don't tell. Okay, so the 5 senses are sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell. They're the 5 senses, that's what I'm talking about. And if you use those in your poetry, it instantly makes it more vivid, okay? So what I want you to do is picture yourself during that first week of year 7. If that's too difficult for you, maybe remember back to the first week of year 3. The whole point is to put yourself in this scenario where it's the first week at a new school and everything's big and scary, okay? And I want you to capture it by using the senses. So think about all of the things that are happening around you. Now, it might be the smell of toast in the canteen. It might be the sound of the older pupils galloping down the hallway. It might be the touch of your bag when you pick it up. It's really heavy and it's rough on your hands. All kinds of different things. It might even be that you walk in school and you've got some chewing gum, so it's the taste of a chewing gum. There's loads of different things it could be, okay? But I want you to focus specifically on the senses. And my challenge, right, is to do 2 bullet points for each of the 5 senses. So I know that's a lot, but I'm going to give you 10 minutes for this, okay? 10 minutes, okay? 2 bullet points for each of the senses. And all you're doing is describing the things that are happening around the school at this dramatic or anxiety-filled moment, okay, but by using the senses. What can you hear? What can you smell? What can you touch? What can you see? What can you taste, right? So that's my challenge. 2 bullet points for each of the senses. Do it, be as descriptive as possible, and have fun. Cheers. Cool, so I hope you enjoyed using the senses to really get the poem going there. The senses are such a brilliant and vivid way to get a poem started and also to pull the reader and the listener in. And it all links to the idea of show, don't tell. And that also plays a part in this next part of the exercise as well. So I want you to imagine yourself in a scenario at school, right? Ideally the first week of year 7 or the first week of year 3, but imagine yourself in a scenario at school where there's a lot going on. Maybe it's a mishmash of a couple of things. Maybe it's the end of a day or whatever it is, okay? And I want you to describe yourself in the 3rd person narrative, right? And this all relates to show, don't tell, because if you did it in the 1st person and you said, I walked down the corridor and I was scared, it's boring, okay? Do it in the 3rd person and you say, as they shuffled down the corridor, their face was frozen in fear. It sounds cooler, and you have to think a lot more about body language and facial expression and movement. So this is my challenge. I want you to spend a little bit of time describing a scenario, maybe a series of little scenarios, right? But putting yourself in that scenario and describing it from the 3rd person. Because if you're doing it from the 3rd person, you don't have access to the thoughts. So you have to, like I say, think about body language and facial expression and think about all the actions that are happening around. Think about the other people. Think about maybe a bell goes off or a teacher comes out or somebody kicks a football down the corridor, whatever it is. What's important is that you keep in the 3rd person, because if you're doing it in the 3rd person, you have to be a lot more observational, right? You have to observe a lot more and you have to be a lot more descriptive. And you can't just tell us how you're feeling. You have to show us how you're feeling by observing from the 3rd person. So again, I'm going to give you 10 minutes to do that, right? So if you've finished one idea in a couple of minutes, maybe do a sequence of little scenarios. The whole thing is to be as descriptive as possible from the 3rd person, because then you're showing us rather than just telling us. It's too easy to just say, I felt scared. All right, have fun. I'll see you in a bit. Hey up. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. So now we've captured it using the senses and we've spent a bit of time thinking in the 3rd person, because then you have to be more observational. So for this 3rd and final part of the main task, I want you to imagine that the school is populated by animals, all right? Instead of pupils and human beings, they're animals. So which animal would you be? Which animals would you be intimidated by and which animals would you like to hang out with? I want you to describe a scene in which these animals are let loose around the school, right? I want you to focus on alliteration, similes, maybe a bit of rhyming if you're able to do rhyming, but don't worry if not. Some active or present continuous verbs, and what I mean by that is instead of run, jump, push, it would be running, jumping, pushing. yeah, alliteration, similes, rhyming, and then active or present continuous verbs. You don't have to just focus on those, but I think they'd be really good ideas to get this part going along. And yeah, just imagine that the school is populated by animals. So you can have a lot of fun with this. You can make it dramatic, you can make it funny, you can make it ridiculous, you can make it scary. You can do whatever you want. And animals are just a great way to describe the way that people move, people's personalities. If you describe the year 11s as a herd of wildebeest, there might be a lad in year 7 that's a cheeky monkey. Do you know what I mean? Like, animals are just a great way to get the point across. And also, just in this poem, it can be a little bit chaotic, it can be a little bit surreal, it can be a little bit silly. And also imagine some of the teachers as animals as well. You know, everyone in the school is an animal. I just think it'd be a really fun task. And it can help you to capture what it feels like at school sometimes. Because sometimes at school, it just feels like everything's a bit much and everything's a bit crazy. And you almost imagine everyone as animals. Anyway, well, I did. So again, I want you to spend 10 minutes doing this. Now, you can do it as a diary entry, like you'll never believe what happened at school today, or you can describe it as if you're experiencing the situation in real time. Either way, as always, have fun, and I'll see you soon. I really, really, really wish I was there to hear some of your examples for that last exercise, because that's one of my favourite exercises. I really love setting that one. I've got one last final task for you. It's a really, really, really short type of poetry. It's a really short form of poetry called a haiku. You've probably heard of a haiku before, but if not, it's an ancient form of Japanese poetry and it's really, really simple. There's hundreds of different versions of a haiku, but the version that I use, it has 3 lines. The first line is 5 syllables, the second line is 7 syllables, and the third line is 5 syllables. So it goes 5, 7, 5. And remember, syllables are the number of sounds that the words make. Okay, the number of sounds that a word make. Some people get confused with word count, but it's not, it's syllables. Right, I'm going to give you an example. So this happened to me quite a lot in primary school. I'm sure it doesn't happen to you because you're very well behaved, but here we go. Cheeks turn to lava, standing up in assembly, a spotlight of shame. Cheeks turn to lava, 5. Standing up in assembly, 7. A spotlight of shame, 5. Really, really short poem. 5, 7, 5. It's really simple. And thinking about syllables is a great way to get that rhythm and musicality in your poetry without having to rhyme every time. So my challenge to you is just to write a short haiku about any aspect of school. Any aspect of school. It doesn't have to be the first week of year 7 or the first week of year 3. It can be anything. It could be sports day, the lunch queue, after school club, your best friend, your favourite teacher. All I would say is please be kind. Don't use it to criticise a teacher or say that you don't like or make fun of somebody. Just have a bit of fun with it. So any aspect of school life, but as a haiku. So remember, it's the number of sounds that a word makes, right? So standing up in assembly is 7. That's the number of sounds that that line makes. So 5, 7, 5. Any aspect of school, give it a go. Enjoy your haikus. Nice one. Great stuff. I hope you enjoyed your haikus and I hope you've enjoyed this session. I've really enjoyed putting these things together. I love working with school pupils and I love hearing all of your ideas. And that period from year 6 to year 7, it's just so exciting. And yes, it can be scary, but it's also brilliant. I'm sure you're going to go on and really enjoy secondary school. It is a wonderful time. You'll meet so many amazing people and make some special friends and tons of special memories. I'm going to leave you with a very short poem, which is a limerick. There was once a teacher from Fife who tried to eat soup with a knife. He coughed and wheezed and spluttered and sneezed and the soup went all over his wife. My name is Matt Abbott. I hope you've enjoyed this session, as I say, and I hope you enjoy all of the resources available through Avon. They do some wonderful things. Hopefully I'll get to meet you in real life in school at some point. But either way, keep writing poetry, give poetry a chance, have fun when you're writing, and good luck. See you later.